is when I joined, you guys know about GitHub? Yeah? It's okay to say now. So when I arrived, RIM had already decided to start doing activity on GitHub. So we had one repository there called WebWorks. So that was a runtime for the tablet, for the BlackBerry OS. And then since then, now we have, I believe, 42 repositories there. We moved from having, I think, like 6 people visibly engaged in there. Now we have about 60. And what we have been doing is a combination of, so we're using open source for a multiplicity of goals within RIM. Some of it is like runtimes like WebWorks. Right? So WebWorks is HTML5. The HTML5 community is all about open source. We are engaging at that at multiple levels. We're engaging it in the runtime. In our runtime, we're participating in Apache. So we're contributing to Apache Cordova, which is the follow-up from PhoneGap. So you guys know that Nitobi, which is a company that was doing PhoneGap, was acquired by Adobe. And then at the same process, roughly, they contributed to Apache. So now there is a community in there. So we're participating directly in there, which involved signing the contribution agreement and all the usual things that happen at Apache. So we're participating on the runtime for HTML5. We have tooling. At this point, the tooling that we have open source is the tooling for HTML5. We have a significant and growing number of native C, C++ components that have imported, because many of these components are based on POSIX standards, so they run quite easily into on Linux. Any questions? I'm just dumping, right? So it actually has been relatively easy for us to port this thing. So we have ported media, we have ported a number of the physics engines, the gaming engines, Cocos 2D, and those. Actually, we have also ported a number of emulators. So we have that large number of components. And then we have some additional projects in the space of new frameworks. Right? So we have some frameworks for BlackBerry, look and feel on WebWorks. We have some for native gaming, and that's the bulk of that participation in there. And then in addition to that, you probably know that RIM had acquired Torch Mobile a while ago, right? So when Torch Mobile used to be very engaged in the WebKit community, contributing back and stuff like that. When it became part of RIM, it continued to be very engaged in the technology, but it wasn't contributing back. So we have, this is in Georgia Stake's group, we have committed to start pushing some of those changes back. That's happening. Yesterday at the keynote you heard that we're going to participate in the Qt project. So we're going to be contributing certainly the port for playbooks. So I think that last night I pushed out some ports for 4.8, the core of 4.8, and then we're going to be contributing directly to the community. And then there's Apache Cordova. So we're in the process of becoming much more active participant in open source, both in projects that we lead, in projects that others are leading that are strategic to us, and for all the usual reasons. I mean, we wanted because we want those components to be available. So, for example, one of the stories that I'm going to tell later in my presentation is about Cocos 2DX. We ported it, we push it back to the upstream, and then when that group, that community released a new version, now it's a horse playbook. Another example that I think is a compelling story to tell is Wikipedia has a client-based, an HTML client based on PhoneGap, right? And they do all of this open source. So that was, I think it was last week, or maybe it was last week, the weekend before this, that they talked about it. I saw it because I was following one of the guys who was tweeting about it. We talked with our group, we ported, it was essentially just configuration changes. In one day, we pushed it out into GitHub, so that was available there. The Wikipedia guys saw it, they rebuilt it. A bit of a bad timing. I was hoping to be able to point you to AppWorld right now, but the Wikipedia guys were going to frost them this last weekend, and so it's going to happen in a couple of weeks. But that's the kind of thing that open source is giving us that we couldn't do. So we're at a point where we have most of the tools that you would associate it with a company that's engaging in open source. So we can blog, although with some caveats, we can tweet, we can have conversations, we can open source. So that's where we are. We're getting up to speed in engaging in the community. We think it's extremely beneficial to all of us. I'm personally very interested in the way it's going to change the relationship between developers in Cream and the developer community who are using these technologies. How we're going to have more conversations in blogs and in forums like that, where we have more give and take, the traditional